I was struck by, I was actually coming in on the bus and I was reading my book this morning by Maureen Gaffney, Flourishing, and I just want to share this with you. It's autonomy, and what does it mean? And she said to flourish, you need to have a feeling of autonomy in your life. That means feeling that you can use your own free will to set the direction of your life, that you have sufficient elbow room to act, that your opinion counts and what you do matters. Unless you feel like this, there is no sense of ownership in what you do, and that really resonated with me. And what I'm doing for my son, I suppose, where the journey would have began was in 2003, my son Daniel was born, and I planned to go to America, but I landed in Africa. I didn't know the language, and I didn't know where I was, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I've mastered the language, I'm happy to say. He was assessed for home support in 2007. We started home support in 2008, and support was inappropriate, directed towards upkeep of house rather than supporting Daniel. Very much there was young women coming in who had no, they had no training. They didn't want to interact with my son. They wanted to clean my house, and that's basically not what I wanted. I heard of a group called Core Staff, and in 09 I went to the disability manager and I asked for home support instead of home help. That's what I got. I was refused, and later in 09 I just happened to walk by the centre and I said, sure, feck it, I'll go in and I'll have a chat with the disability manager. I was told she was on maternity leave. Luckily for me, and I got this lovely disability manager, and he said, sure, no problem, sure, you can move over to the home care package. I started crying my eyes out and I said, Jesus, after all these years, thanks very much. I walked out. I don't think he knew what he had put himself in for. I met this lovely guy called Robert from Core Staff, and he came out and he asked me what did I need, and I said basically I needed SLT. And from 2011 to 2013, I had a lovely student come into the house who was studying SLT, and she was wonderful with my son, and we had a great relationship. But she was leaving about 2 years later, and I went back to the disability manager and I asked for an individualised budget, and she actually gave me Martin's number, cheeky git. And I rang Martin and I said, how are you? My name is Jacinta and I'm looking for individual funding, and I'm just wondering, am I on to the right man? And he said, sure, come in and have a chat with us. I said, great. So off I went. For once, the freedom to choose what was best for my son. As far back as 08, I had gone to a conference from an American SLT who developed the Kaufman Praxis Kit, and something struck me that day on the level of SLT input that he needed. The realisation of what he needed was he needed it 3 times a week for short periods of time, but the system in Ireland was 3 blocks of 6 hours per year. That meant 6 hours of therapy per block, which meant 18 hours per year, and the recommendations was 3 hours a week, which added up to 156 hours. So my service was providing 18 hours, but I knew we needed 156. So I was on a mission. I had to figure out what, and was hell-bent on getting the maximum help I could. Well, we left no stone unturned, and we tried everything possible to improve the quality of life for Daniel. We had always wanted to try the CLUES method, but it was beyond our financial capability. And joining the AT network allowed us to do this for him, and it was the last thing that we didn't want to say in 20 years' time, God, could that have made the difference? And I suppose AT gave us that opportunity to do that. For this year alone, he has he's received 36 hours of OT. He would have been lucky to get 8 sessions from the HSE, and he has done 12 sessions a year. He gets 12 hours per year in the school. We've now been able to give him 20 hours. I mean, that's a huge jump. All I ask for my son is the support for him to reach his full potential, which I now feel is happening. Surely it is his human right. Majority of parents, if given the chance for individualised funding, would do the right thing and imagine the hope for a better future for that person. And I absolutely, hand on heart, have to say thanks very much for Martin to taking us on board, and it's been a life changer, and I firmly believe that he's going to have a better outcome because of our individualised funding. And I'm going to leave you with this. Martin Luther King wrote this quote, and he said, "I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be, and you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be." And thanks very much for listening.